was a welder before, so a metal fabricator, if anyone's not familiar with that, which again is very labor intensive work, very hot, melting metal with, big machines, wearing leather coats, working 10, 12-hour days in a factory. Definitely, quite different from what we're doing now.
Hello to everyone and welcome to the podcast. My name is Anatoliy Labinskiy, and today on our Ecom Business podcast we have a wonderful guest and very good friend of mine, and he is Canadian and he doing amazing things with the agency space, the same like me, and his clients are actually the awesome brands which he was able to help them grow to over $30 million in the total sales, and he have been able to switch from the simple welder work to the multiple seven figures agency owner and completely change his life. He just living on a life in his own rules at the moment, changing the lives for different brands, and the results, as I mentioned, over $30 million are real proof of that only last year they were able to generate over $17 million for their clients and having more awesome brands in their portfolio. His name of his agency, New Reach agency, which you can find out in the Google. And the name of our guest today is Jordan Bazouzi. He's really a great friend of mine and just an amazing person. Hey Jordan, man, I really love to see you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. I'm so excited. This is going to be awesome. I'm excited to dive into a ton of different topics and, give a bunch of value today.
I'm really excited for this podcast because I believe it's going to be conversation based completely, about our life as agency owners, about all the struggles and success and all the things in general. What is close to me for sure. It should be interesting one today. So guys and girls, listen carefully, especially if you are a young agency owner or you are great in e-commerce or other space and thinking, maybe should I started something my own. And here it's gonna be some insights open for you and tactics and tricks about how to scale to multiple $1 million several stores. So Jordan, let's get started. First of all, how come from welder over 2 years ago to multiple seven figures agency owner? What has been happened, why it has been switched, and how you were able to achieve that?
Yeah, so thank you so much for the intro, man. And like I said, I'm super excited. I hope we can bring a ton of value to, like you said, anyone in the e-commerce space, new agency owners, etc., even veteran agency owners. So like I said, I've been in the agency space now for almost 3 years. And I was a welder before, so a metal fabricator, if anyone's not familiar with that, which again, is very labor intensive work, very hot, melting metal with, big machines, wearing leather coats, working 10, 12-hour days in a factory. Definitely, quite different from what we're doing now in the luxury of my house and in the little office. But I'll say one thing, it definitely gave me a lot of work ethic in terms of, actually working hard. And, from what we do now, it's definitely difficult, but it's a little bit more brain power decision-making as opposed to physical labor, which I like a lot more. I definitely didn't, it wasn't ideal coming home every day and, having to shower, then going to the gym, having to shower again, just, being an absolute mess, etc. But got into the agency space in a pretty funny way, as, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the name at this point. So Iman Gadzi was actually the first person to, intro me to SMMA, social media marketing. And I believe 2019. So even though I was welding and doing everything before, I was probably 4 years into my welding career at the time of making the transition into starting an agency, etc. But I was always doing drop shipping, stuff like that on the side. So, I had a decent understanding as to e-commerce, building my own website, even running some ads before. I think the very first course I ever bought online was a Facebook ads course from Kevin David, if you guys know who that is.
Yeah.
Super scammy course.
I think got in trouble recently.
Yeah. Dude just got sued by the government, etc. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But anyways, that kind of put me down through actually investing into myself versus buying a $3,000 course. Kudos to Kevin David. I literally went through the full webinar, fake live webinar. I literally thought it was real. You know nothing back in the day. And then at the end, you get upsold on a $3,000 course that I bought, went through the funnel, converted and everything. I was like, okay, this is pretty, learned how to run some Facebook ads, got a few sales here and there. And even going down more of that drop shipping rabbit hole, like I said, I got introduced to Eman Gadzi and, the online space in terms of running an agency. And at this time, again, I was sort of like taking all these courses. I always knew I wanted to kind of get out of the welding space. I always knew that I wanted more, etc. But obviously I just had no idea how. And so figuring out, I was like, okay, learning a little bit more about the agency. Obviously, like I said, I have a decent amount of experience drop shipping and running Facebook ads, etc. I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. Went into this a little bit, but again, I was still welding full time, right? So the only time I really had to do any self-development, learn about these courses, learn about this business model, etc., was, basically 2 hours a day, like from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. was like my time of sitting down, going through the courses, implementing, etc. So, in my mind, I was probably doing this early 2019. And it was just like, to me, the biggest obstacle at this point was like the time hurdle that I didn't have, right? The fact that I could only work 2 hours every single day on it. And I was like, man, like I totally believe in this information. I totally, I was drinking the Kool-Aid at this point, right? I really thought, this is the way to make 10K a month, 100K a month, et cetera, so on and so forth. And, I was like, okay, I really only need to put the time investment in to get to this point. So, it's crazy to say, when I quit welding, which I was, in for like a 4-year career at this point, I think I only had like $5,000 saved. So like literally nothing for a 4-year career, which is insane. But the day that I quit, actually, like I said, July 20th, 2020 is when we signed our first e-commerce client. And again, it kind of just took off from there, going down the rabbit hole of investing into more courses, more masterminds, etc. And Anatoliy, that's how we met one another, through investing into these masterminds and courses and things like this. And again, that's sort of, long story short, from where I was, 3-4 years ago to where we are now running, a 7-figure agency.
Awesome. So, I completely, when you were sharing the beginning of the story, I was having flashbacks in my mind. Back in 2011, I used to work on summertime for some factory where we were like kind of melted glasses to make the like front windows for the cars. So it was like a factory, and it's completely unhealthy factory with full of the kind of like things in the chemicals in the air.
Yeah, chemicals.
Yeah, so I was exactly working with next to this kind of owners, which is like 100 degrees like plus, and we were just like my work was just place the glass, put it in, it make it form, take it the hot glass and take it out. It was flashbacks in my really entire your speech. It was flashback to that time. The main thing is that I was really feeling worse and worse week by week by working there in terms of breathing because of all these chemicals around. And I was looking on the guys and like, hey, yeah, I'm here like for 15 years, 13 years, 7 years, some of them like 20 plus years. And I was working on night shift, so it was nighttime work. And it's really like ridiculous that people are ready to spend all their life for that kind of income, which is they getting paid for destroying their health. And I was like, oh my, this is no, for sure not for me. Like it was the part-time job, but I won't come back here anymore. And it's nothing related to the e-commerce. I had no clue that back in 2011, what is that? But I really feel what you're saying, and like completely being in that space. And after that switch over to the e-commerce, that's something which is like a life with the benefits, I would say, after the hard work employment to the smart work employment, not the
For
unemployment.
sure.
Sorry.
Like I think the biggest thing to that, like you said, and like you can touch on this, Anatoly, is like, at that point in your life, like it's not even like e-commerce was like even on the map, so to speak, but it was just like, man, like the cost, cost per dollar earned, like the headache per dollar earned, essentially. Oh my God. It was, so taxing, so labor intensive that, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, maybe it wasn't even necessarily like on your mind of like the e-commerce, but you just knew like, hey, I need to do something better than this in terms of, where I want to go in my life, the goals that I have. This probably isn't going to help me get there per se.
Yeah. Agree with you. Tell me please, like, okay, you watch the course, you play a bit with drop shipping here and there. Like, what exactly was the point for you to finally start the agency and deliver your first results? Because definitely without the real experience, without the real knowledge and skills yet, you got most probably first client. How it was the first client, what was the feelings there, and how you were able to achieve, or maybe you screwed up on that case, which is completely possible, but I just really would love to hear the details.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, I mean, it's such a cliche, but it's mindset, right? Like I had the mindset of like, I was very confident in my skills of even just like running Facebook ads, but just more so delivering on the service that I knew that, again, like I'll figure this out once I get that first client. And funny enough, I didn't even mention this, but the very first client that we signed in the agency actually wasn't in the e-commerce space. So I did sign a client while I was welding, and it was actually in the medical spa space. So that's what we were going to start with, was lead generation, working with medical spas, like lip injections, Botox, that sort of thing. And then COVID hit, and then obviously we kind of transitioned into e-commerce. But again, it was just more so like really self-education. Like I had no, it came down to self-education and self-belief. I had no worry about not being able to perform for the first clients. Like if I wasn't able to fill it out, like my mindset as well as, even for the first couple clients that we signed as an agency, I probably didn't even make more than a couple $100 profit each client, because I was more worried about either hiring a team member to fulfill that actually knew what they were doing, or purchasing a course so I could figure it out to do it on my own. So that was what I did for the first little bit of learning how to run Facebook ads, and doing that for lead generation really wasn't too difficult. But then once you get into that, you kind of realize, okay, there's lead nurturing and all these things on the back end, etc., which, I ended up paying freelancers to work for the agency, obviously, like everyone kind of does at the beginning. But I was pretty much, like I said, making a couple $100 profit, if not losing money at the beginning, just to fulfill on the clients, to build that long-term relationship, because I was more invested in terms of, okay, obviously I need money right now, but as long as I can, I was still living with my parents. It's not like the expenses that I had were kind of like raining on the top of my head where I needed to, make profit this very second. So I was lucky in the sense that, again, when I made this leap in terms of starting the agency, getting that first client, I did sort of have a safety net underneath me, in the sense of, I wasn't necessarily living on my own yet, etc., doing these sort of things, where it allowed me to kind of play a little bit more long-term minded and focus on delivering great results up front, and then worrying about, profit and bringing on more clients on the back end, is making sure that those initial times that for those first clients, we actually delivered the service properly. And it worked out quite well in that sense.
Yeah, and how was the feeling when you closed your first client? And is that was easy for you or no?
Oh my God. I mean, like I said, the first time we signed the first e-commerce client was the day I quit my job. And like, for me, it was like God telling me that like, you made the right decision. I was like, let's go, like I was so excited. Basically, I literally came up with a dance for that. When we signed new clients for the first year, I would pretty much do a dance every single time. Even still, it's something I think about. But I mean, the way we did it, actually, which was even still one of the ways that we grew our agency to 7 figures, was through cold email. Funny enough, which is, I know a lot of people there's a million different ways to grow an agency. But even still to this date, cold email is one of the best ways that we acquire clients. That's actually how we signed the first client as well.
Nice. So you went directly from day one to the email outreach, which I remember, like, you really have your own systems for that. That's cool. Especially it's amazing because you don't have the ad budget for advertising. So it's completely like a deal maximum cheap for the acquisition. It's amazing. Tell me please, like, you start growing and start having better clients, bigger brands to work with you. Have you got any kind of really problematic clients, and what was that, why it happened, or maybe it's happening often on your end?
For sure. I mean, I think everyone has their nightmare clients in the agency space, and at least once, you probably get an experience where, like, you're questioning why you're even running a service-based business because it's some of these people are so difficult to deal with. But at the end of the day, I think, it takes two to tango. And oftentimes, if you really look introspectively, like, you'll find out that, maybe the client is being, maybe a bit of a pain, but oftentimes there's certain things that are getting overlooked or small things that are happening that shouldn't be, that kind of lead to the client being a little bit more of a pain in the ass than they should. I mean, we've had a few situations where, I mean, I think we've all had this situation as well, where, I mean, maybe even performed too well for a client, and then the billable ends up becoming too much. We've lost clients that way, where, again, we make them too much money, and the commission that structure that we have ends up, costing them 20-30,000 a month. And at the time, especially, when I was running the agency in the beginning, and especially more in the early stages, I wasn't willing to be flexible in those situations in terms of valuing the long-term value of the client, as opposed to, hey, we're owed $30,000, I want $30,000, as opposed to looking at, let's make $100,000 over the next 12 months instead of $30,000 and it's gone, right? Because the client's going to leave after they've had that billable. So we've had that situation, like I said, where we've performed too well and we've lost clients, but we've also had nightmare clients. But like I said, with, when you look introspectively after a nightmare client leaves, I mean, there's a ton of red flags and telltale signs that you kind of could have predicted it. And it's also maybe a bit your fault as well. Like, if I'm honest, some of the biggest nightmare clients that we've had, if I really look back on it, should we have signed them? Maybe not. Like, maybe it wasn't the best fit for the both of us, and maybe their brand wasn't ready for paid advertising, and it was more so, again, we were trying to acquire new clients in the early stages of our agency, and maybe we didn't know better as well. But like I said, now that we look back on it, oftentimes some of the biggest headaches have come from brands that we shouldn't have signed. Maybe we set wrong expectations, etc. And again, I think we've all had those issues. But oftentimes, like I said, I think it takes two to tango. It's never really just the client that's insane. I mean, sometimes it is, but I mean, oftentimes I think maybe it's the sales team setting wrong expectations, or just small, boxes not getting checked, etc. That can kind of lead to frustration.
It's the most ridiculous thing which is happening in the different time of agency life. It's when you're losing the client for making the too good results. Like for example, we had one of my cases in my life, which was one of the most successful and one of the most interesting and one of the most headache. It was really where we, in first year of working together, first 7 months, it was awful. We made plus minus only 100K from zero, only 100K, and it was up and down, no profitability. It was lost profit at the end. It's close to break even to minus. And in 7 months, we finally finding out what's working for this brand. And they were, in 7 months, they didn't leave us. I was at the beginning of my stage as an agency. I had only one media buyer at that moment. And they didn't leave us just because hey, I see what you're doing. I'm in the e-commerce for 3 years and I haven't been done that yet for myself. But with the approach of your side, I can see that we can make it. So I was really shocked. I said, thank you for trusting on me. We're going to make it happen. And in 7 months, we're finding out the winning creative, and we start just expanding. And in a matter of 1 month, we were able to go to 27K a day. And we scaled that store to 3.5 million in the next less than 8 months or something like that. Total over 6 millions. And to collaboration with this client was so difficult, and I'm the most patient person in the world. I can tell you that for sure. If people knows me, they fuck, how you can be so patient? It's insane. And she was kind of, I love her. She's a sweet lady. She's a sweet person, but she has kind of two different people in her head. One is saying, oh yes, yeah, I agree with you, it's 100%, yeah, I will do it after the call. And the second person drop down the phone and completely not doing anything, or texting me opposite things, I'm not sure if it's a good idea. And my media buyer was saying how we would work with her. I said, let me handle it. So my customer service always was on the line, where patient is fine, but I lose the hair with her. I lose the hair by handling her, not her problems, not her store, her itself as a person. And by delivering like 27K a day, she was complaining about the results, that it's kind of fast. I'm not ready for that. Or obviously, I understand that because in 1 month we scaled too fast. 100% agree. But it was really all the time complaints, if it's good, if it's bad. But only one thing she said: I know that you are the best team to be with, because I see that you are working on this stuff. Yeah, you're working on this stuff, and I've been trying different people. I was trying for myself. I know what it takes. But like, it was nightmare. She wasn't really cooperate with us on the one direction. Always there 10 different directions all the time.
Yeah, yeah, as you start to run an agency, I think, and the bigger your team gets, but the more clients you deal with, I mean, you really become an HR management company where you're just dealing with people, I mean, all the time, and their problems instead of the actual business.
Yeah, like she left us at one time when we are on profit share, and when she left us, like, hey, like, I don't feel comfortable to pay that much. I said, listen, you are not making anything. Everything what is done right now, it's just because of our cooperation. So like, let's just continue. No, give me 1 month. I want to handle it. We won like 300K, 350 a month that moment, and she left us for 1 month. I was in the store. I was looking on the stuff, and there was like, everything went from like, I don't remember, like 15 20K a day to 3K a day, and all in lost. And I like, hey, in 3 weeks texted to her, listen, like, I believe you need help. I'm not really sure, but yeah, let's try. Can we make it percentage smaller, and so on? I said, okay, let's do smaller percentage, because I know her, I love the brand, and so on. And at that moment we start growing. When she came back to us, we start growing, and I wasn't able to handle her. I moved her to my manager. And guess what? He is not patient like me. So it's finished in 3 months, because he said, I won't be able to handle her. Done. Sorry, Anatoly, but this is not the way how it should go. So as a owners, like, we are able to handle with this kind of problems, but it's hard to really deal with some of the clients. I feel that a lot. But I love all of them, because like, we have such an amazing people in our team who are like, we managing stores for like, so like just hustlers and action takers. It's the people who usually taking the results, the most of the results. Action takers, like, you telling them, they're just following what you say, and that's it, and nothing else, if they trust you.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's where maybe, like, it's, again, especially in the agency space, I mean, there's so many different types of ways to grow an agency, but there's also so many different types of agency clientele, in terms of like who you're dealing with. And one thing that we've ran into in terms of an issue, is because, like, oftentimes we're reaching out to brands via cold email. A lot of times, again, it's just sort of like the KPIs that we set, etc. We're usually keeping them. Again, we want them to have a fairly big organic presence, in terms of the sense that they're doing well organically, doing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 minimum a month, organically, right? And then we can look towards either helping them advertise,
Easy
or
one,
even just
yeah.
getting their toes wet. But this is the caveat, right? Is like, oftentimes these people, just the owner and the mindset of someone like that, they are more than happy at making $1 million a year revenue and $400,000 a year profit, and they don't have any other interests in growing, right? So again, like you said, maybe sometimes you can actually scale really too fast, where they don't even want that type of revenue. They don't even want to deal with that type of headache. They have no interest of. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
clients where we've been working with them for almost the full 3 years, but just because, they're not necessarily even looking for like us to kind of continuously take it to the next level and help them, pull different levers in terms of scaling. Like I said, they're happy with smaller revenues and smaller brands, where again, it comes down to the different clientele in the agency space, and some of the different headaches. We run into headaches all the time where, I mean, we have brands, like I said, that are doing, a couple $100,000 a month organically, and they only want to spend $10,000 a month in ads. So it's the complete opposite, where we're like bothering them, really trying to force them into capitalizing on what they have and what they've built. So obviously it's not going to last forever. But sometimes you run into owners that, again, they don't necessarily have that mindset, whether they started a passion project and it turned into an amazing e-commerce business, or again, whatever the case may be. A lot of these people aren't necessarily business centric, right? And they don't necessarily think about making 10, 20, 30, $100 million, etc.
Yeah, like according to this example, I have one thing to share. I don't want to mention his name, but it's one of our friends from the mastermind. So he is living in California, guy with tattoo and beers. And beer, you know who I'm speaking about, like from California, speaker on the stage. Yeah, so amazing guy, like amazing person, like the really attitude, it's incredible. But the thing is that he is living in California and he's not leaving the California to another state because of his girlfriend, his fiance right now, and because she doesn't wanna, like she has a brand. I don't know, did he tell you or no? She has a brand.
Yes. Brick and mortar.
So yeah, and so this kind of brand, it's like a local store or two
Yeah.
stores, and he's the founder of several agencies. He's the person who can scale the shit out to multiple eight figures to her.
8 figures.
Yeah. And she like, no, I want to be comfortable with my stores. I want to stay small just because it's my passion, it's my life.
Yeah.
And that's why he's stuck in California. He cannot move. I mean, that it's a type of people. They love what they are doing, but they don't want this headache with corporations, because you become a corporation when you start scaling to hard, to 8-9 figures to exit or build some new Coca-Cola or whatever. But the main thing is that it's becoming the real work where you have to work hard, managing the team, learning the skills, being a CEO, finding the CEO, whatever it is. So it's not everyone has that kind of issues, and it's most probably to us as agency owners, it's the most difficult to understand and accept it.
Yeah,
really
for sure.
to accept that. And I don't know how he's dealing with that, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
it's insane. Like, something that is scalable do not scale.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and you put it perfectly. I mean, it's something like that we don't necessarily understand as agency owners. I think, especially people in our space, we're very, even the people at our level, like it's definitely wired differently than the normal person. And when you run an agency, you end up running like 10 different businesses at once, just because, again, it's so complex to run a high level agency, and especially deliver at a high level as well. So I think, we're definitely just not used to that mindset.
Exactly. It's a completely different world for us. Tell me, please, is there was anything specific which brings you from the level of the first year to the level of the second year, except experience of being a owner of the agency or hiring the team? In terms of, you were starting in e-commerce, in the agency space in 2020 when it was COVID, easy to start. For me, it was as well huge growth that year. And I'm just wondering, the next years, it's iOS 14 happened. There was the tracking issues. There were several other things happening and making our life harder as advertisers. But still, like, what was the main game changer for you to be able to scale the brands further, harder? And right now, you just following the steps, or you had to change, or just was using the same exactly what you were using before?
Yeah, so, really good question, Anatoly. I think, a few things, and even like both, like on the brand side as well as the agency side. From what we saw, I think, a lot of the smaller brands that even ended up leaving us just due to whether it was lower performance, whether it was too high fees, whatever the case may be. A lot of these smaller brands that were sort of built through COVID and really had a lot of growth. A lot of them ended up fizzling out. And again, like whether they made $1 million or a couple $1 million, it more so might have been riding the wave as opposed to building an actual brand and a business. So we did see quite a bit of a drop off in terms of churn, like internally for our agency, but as well as just like, especially in the beginning of iOS 14. I mean, everyone knows, right? It was a lot of uncertainty and kind of, just dealing with a lot of fluctuation in terms of results. And again, like I said, we did have a much higher amount of churn, but what allowed us to continue to not only keep growing the agency through that time was focusing on LTV within our current clients. So adding new services, figuring out different ways to aid them whether it was not even just like adding to our service in terms of, increasing pricing and like adding on a complete extra package, or even depending on what they were, what they were paying us, maybe adding on an extra service for free just to sort of take that load off of them in terms of price point, and putting another anchor into them as a brand and from our agency of actually being able to look towards us, whereas we're not just quote unquote the Facebook ads agency or the Google agency or whatever, right? There's different hooks that we're helping these brands build and that we're sort of like sunk in, which kind of allows us to build that LTV in terms of continue to scale the agency. I mean, every single year, thankfully, so far, we've experienced growth, and it's just been through focusing on the boring but revenue driving tasks, right? Focusing on email outreach, driving a bit of traffic through ads, building the personal brand, etc. But focusing on the boring and what's working. In terms of the brand side, I think a lot of it really depends on the brand itself, but some of the biggest things that we've been focusing on have been, like I said, adding some other services to help them grow, whether it's actually having them pay for it or just being an added on service, whether it's UGC. So that's something that we've been taking on quite recently, has been helping brands get actual performance UGC as opposed. Yeah, but more so like performance UGC and actually having a framework built behind the content that we're helping them create, and as well just like looking at different avenues to get better bang out of their buck. So one of the biggest things that we noticed was the lack of conversion rate optimization in the brands that we work with. So I mean, we're spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on spending money to drive traffic. Why are we not at least A/B testing continuously on the smallest things, and even some of the bigger things, to see what can we do to optimize the website? And that's actually been one of the biggest levers, like I said, to actually help some of the brands grow throughout 2021, 2022, when things were a little bit unstable. Was focusing a little bit more on the LTV side of things for the clients internally, as well as them for the brands, but as well as the conversion rate optimization has been huge.
Yeah, I would be agree with you 100% here about, first of all, like for us it was similar, and even we completely in different space. We mostly in the drop shipping space as for now. Was really like calculating the caviar clients who has organic sales, which is easy to get, easy to manage, which is the most wonderful way to like if you are beginner of the agency space, definitely this is the way to go. Harder one, but better to get one client with the right success possibilities than started from scratch. Like in my end, it was the story. But the thing is that the game changer, it was definitely to survive, to adapt. It was the building ecosystems. I mean, which is like different traffic sources, Facebook, TikTok. Before I remember back in 2018, I said to my media buyer, one employer for a year, I said, listen, like we're gonna be number one in Facebook. I was like looking everyone like Google, Facebook, everywhere. I said, are we gonna be the agency who focusing on the Facebook, and we're gonna be like great on it? But when iOS 14 happens, I said, guys, I believe we have to to go to and study different directions. TikTok show up. Yeah, so we like Facebook, TikTok, Google, email, SMS marketing, and that's real ecosystem which is can hold clients on the consistent side, and just like when results show up, just expand that in the different directions with different traffic sources. And the second thing is the working on the conversion rate, which is as well I was undervaluated before, but especially like some of the stores was super high ticket, conversion rate low, and I was like, okay, it's fine. But when we improved the conversion rate for different stores, it was the real game changer in terms of profitability, which is allowed to the brand survive with the paid advertising. And according to that, I really have one of the amazing questions for you, because this is the number one, what definitely everyone's now speaking about. Tell me, what do you think as an agency owner about the ChatGPT? How that it helpful? Is it scared? Is that useless? Your opinion, how do you use that in your business if you are using it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not using it, that's going to be very unfortunate for you in the future. It's one of those things where, I mean, it's basically like when the internet comes out and you just refuse to use the internet. Like it has the ability to 5-10x the productivity of our team members. And we've already been using it so much for the simple uses like copywriting and different things like this content scripts, UGC frameworks, and briefing for the clients that we work with. I mean, there's a million and one different use cases. I mean, I'm putting out a few videos every other day. I put out one yesterday on one of the new extensions that we found. There's so many great extensions being built on top of ChatGPT. And like I said, one that we were using yesterday it's like a YouTube summary where I don't even know how these things do it. It's insane. It transcripts an entire video before, it transcripts an entire 20-minute video before the video even finished loading the ad, which is insane. So again, there's so many different use cases, as I'm sure you know, Anatoly. I mean, even in some of the masterminds that we're in with some of the things that we've been seeing with some of the bigger agencies. We're just trying to figure out best use cases to find out ways to maximize efficiency because, and I'm sure you know, Anatoliy, your team's definitely a lot bigger than mine. We're at eight full-time team members at the moment. And what we want to get to is, I don't know, do we want to increase team members, or is it something that we should focus on right now in terms of increasing the capacity of the current team members that we have? And I think that's more so the route that we're focused on now, is using AI and ChatGPT and all these other tools to figure out, okay, how can we, improve the output of a single copywriter to manage 2 times the amount of clients, right? Instead of hiring another copywriter, et cetera. And again, also giving our team members the leeway to present this to the leadership team in terms of, what have you guys been seeing? What do you use, et cetera? Because again, one thing I think is going to be huge over the next year is maybe even having someone that is their sole job, is figuring out and keeping up to date with how can we use AI to better improve our processes and, better improve the results that we're getting for our clients. Because I think that's probably going to be one of the things that maybe should be a quote unquote extra added service for some of our clients, is basically just keeping them up to date in terms of what they could be using AI wise. Because again, either we're going to be using it and presenting it to them, or they're going to find it on their own and replace us with it. So I'd rather be the source of knowledge for them, that maybe, again, we're having our team also present it to the leadership team on our end and the agency, but we're also having, someone internally where maybe in a year, that's a full-time position where this is something that not only they're working on it for our internal systems, but presenting it to our clients on the e-commerce side, figuring out how they can use it, because it is going to be that powerful and that useful.
Yeah, that's a definitely game changer. I mean, and we must use it, we must utilize it. And simply first, my first ever use that, I was messing around with one of the stores where we found the winning product and start scaling it. I just implemented I just asked couple of questions with one of my friends on the call in the chat GPT, and we got the answers. So wow, it's amazing. I just used those answers. So let's test it out. Headlines. I even recorded a YouTube video about that, and we added to the store, and it doubled our conversion rate over the night. 107 to 2.13, 2.13
Wow.
from 107. I'm wow. So that's what definitely we have to use it,
One thing you should try, and I've been, even anyone listening, you guys should try this, which is, again, ChatGPT. This stuff is learning and becoming better day by day exponentially. And I know even a few weeks ago, it basically couldn't read from the internet. You should try this. This is pretty insane. We've been sending it links to a product page, and it will read. Yeah, it reads the entire product page. You can send it an example. I used it with our own agency, the website, the other day, and I don't know how it does it. I'm assuming it's reading SEO, whatever. But I sent our own domain website to ChatGPT, and I said, explain to me what this business does. Explains a full paragraph on how we're a digital marketing agency. These are our services. These are the clients we've worked with. Yo, this is crazy, right?
It's recently show up. Before the link wasn't working. I mean,
exactly. And so we've been even using it on the copywriting side, like I said, to be hey, here's a competitor's product page. How can we best take their unique selling points, put it into our copy? And my God, it's really, the capabilities are seriously endless.
Yeah, and the thing is that we are now implementing every single page for the hooks, headlines, description, bullet points. And the thing is that now on the testing phases, we have conversion rate. I'm serious. I never seen that before. On let's say it's 300, 600 a day sales, nothing specific, but it's 12% conversion rate. So it's like $50 spent, $60 spent,
Oh my
12%
gosh.
conversion rate. I was like, are you kidding me? No, look on that. Ad buyer sent it to me screenshot. It's like 12%, another one 10%, 7%, and average now it's 2.5, 4.5, 5.1. I like, it's a drop shipping store. How come? It's basically just like what magic
Soon
is
you're going to be able
happening.
to go. Soon you're going to be able to go to a website and just say, "Build me a drop shipping store for this," and it's going to build a 10% conversion
Ha-
rate store.
Have you seen the update? Have you seen the update from the Shopify?
From yes, yeah, the
They
AI
have checkout.
descriptions.
No, the descriptions, the yes, but they have AI as well integrated checkouts options, the different ways of checkouts. It's playing and changing the way how the customers are shopping around, and the description. And now, I don't know how fast they will implement it, but there is a things are people speaking that it's gonna be like you will give the subject, and your store will give you 6 different options for description by itself, and you have just to choose it like a pre-built theme, you have to choose it and just put the advertising on it, nothing else. Like it's hours and
Unbelievable.
hours of work. Can you imagine? It's like really like weeks, and if you combine on the team, it's like a year of like human power in matter of just implementing just these things to Shopify. If it's gonna be working there,
And
oh my
imagine
god,
2-3 years from now, it's going to be very
that's make me
scary.
excited. No, it's for me it's exciting. It's what is could be make scary, which is sometimes I could feel that I'm too slow in implementing it. So means you could be fast, stay behind from the competitors. Like you and me, we are not competitors because you have one clients, I have another clients in terms of different. I would say direction clients who is making organically. Even if I have a brands, they are already making with the ads, and we just taking over and just advertising for them. So we are competitors, but not healthy one. And even if we are hard competitors in the e-commerce
There's more
space,
than
it's
enough to
complete.
eat.
Yeah, there is
More than enough.
7 or 8 billion people in the earth, and so many brands every single year are coming. But still, if you have feeling like if I want to implement that too, in the time with the guys in the same time, I feel scared that I could be like just behind of all this progress, and that's what makes me scared. But make me excited what it can give me if I will utilize it. It's
And that's
like
why I think you need
insane.
in this next year, I think the one of the biggest new roles is going to be someone within the agency space, within an e-commerce brand, that is their sole job. Keep up to date with how fast, like, this isn't going to be like, iPhone 1 and we have 6 months in between what happens between the next one. It's going to be like week 1 there's this, week 2 it's completely new, week 3 we're not even using that anymore, week 4 it's going to be 10 times better, etc. So I think like that's going to be a role where you need someone full time educating themselves and the team, and put in terms of putting together trainings and presentations, etc., but actually implementing these things, because like you said, I mean, we do a million things already. It's going to be hard to, this is an entire realm that is going to be improving every single second of the day, which is going to be too much to keep up with.
Yeah, and especially like we shouldn't be scared, and our team members as well shouldn't be scared about like we are 32 people on the board at the moment, and we are like only looking expanding right now on the media buying side only by taking more clients. So and nobody's scared to lose the job because of this kind of stuff, because anyway you any kind of technology must be having operator. So without operator, human operator, it won't be functional in the right way. Even if you will automate everything, still there is supposed to be a person who gonna be make this kind of filtrations, settings to make things that it's working on the right direction. And it just like speed up really a lot. And when you said about iPhone example, it's exactly the thing that it's like right now we are on the era of new, like let's say phone or new internet or whatever, and by that being, and it's moving so fast, that's really insane. And I can imagine what is going to be iPhone 17 or 18 in a couple of years, what's going to be or another phone, doesn't matter, what's going to be happening with our
Chat
lifestyle
GPT by the
technologies.
end of this year, like,
Yeah, like no, I mean because of the AI, how the technologies will be changed. on the daily basis uses. So like it's insane. This subject, like we can speak, drink some nice whiskey and speak about that a lot, definitely, because I love this conversation and you can endless talking about that. I have one of the last question to you, which is I'm asking everyone at the end of the podcast, and really wondering to hear your answer. Okay. So, what would you choose, the journey or end result?
I think everyone will probably end up answering the journey just because, I'll put it in a perspective like this. It's a pretty materialistic perspective, but I think it's probably true in most cases. It's just like buying, a new pair of shoes. It's just the same feeling that you get when I bought my Mercedes. It's pretty sick when you get to the, achievement of buying that car, or, the end, or, you hit 100K a month, or, whatever the case may be. And it's sick for like a day or, like a week or so. And then you always have that next mountain to climb, right? So I think, it's something that you have to, even now, like I think mentally, I'm always thinking about the end goal. And I think that's something that I have to internally change, is enjoying more of the process, because I mean, like I just said, we've all experienced that, whether it's getting 100K a month in the agency, whether it's buying that car, whatever, it's sick for like a week, and then there's the next mountain. So like if you don't actually enjoy the process, I think you probably won't ever be fulfilled, and you'll always have that feeling of, once you get to 100K a month, now you're the smallest fish in that pond. Right now, it's the goal is getting to 1 million a month. Then you get to 1 million a month, you're like, okay, this is nothing, this is still a small business, whatever, right? So I think you really have to find the way to smell the roses along the way. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty unfulfilling journey from what I found. Like I can tell you, like, not like I've been in the space for so long by any means, but even, the first year thinking about, I want to hit 10K a month, I want to hit 100K a month, whatever. It's sick, like I said, for that first week. And then, it's, if you don't enjoy everything along the way, like I said, you're working all this time for the enjoyment of a week, 24 hours, which is probably not going to be the best way to go about it over a long-term period. So it's something I have to internally do better, is enjoying the process, because I think we're all more so focused on the end result naturally, but you need to focus on that journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like first of all, you're right. Most of the people who I'm talking to choosing the journey, but some of the people choosing the end result. And recently, with one of the guests, I understand the difference, like about different kind of people, And the thing is, you're right about like end result always you achieving, and like what's next. It's not a movie where it's titles going on and it's done. It's always like end result finishing with like what's next, and starting another journey and another end result up front of you. But like, so I'm as well from journey person, but like recently I had one of the guests, and like even few of our like manual friends as well were telling me end result, because he know exactly where he is going in terms of his end result for his business. So he knows the numbers, he knows exactly where he going, what numbers he want to achieve, when he want to achieve, and if someone will offer him today, he will agree on the end result. So that's why he's choosing end result, because this is his goal. And again, this end result will finish, and he will realize most probably that what's next, it's another end result, so it's another journey, and maybe he will change his mind. He just looking in terms of numbers. Yeah, but the person who was recently on my call, he said one thing, that he is already owner of the third company. And he said, I got enough of journey. Like I'm doing this for 15 years. The journey, I completely understand most people are choosing, but for me, the end result, it's everything, because like I'm done with journey. I'm good with that. So now I'm just looking for exit. I know the numbers as well. He knows where he want to go in terms of exit, when he want to do that, and it's third time for him, third successful company which he sold it before. So he like just like it's enough. And I'm like, oh, enough of journey. It's a good way, because we are in the business, we are young. Like I'm in the business in e-commerce since 2017, but really in the business since 2000 19. So like it's only 4 years. So here is nothing. Yeah, nothing to speak about. But he's 15 years, and obviously he's like good enough of journey. And like, come on, I really want to just like to take care of my life and enjoy. Yeah, so it's a good point, to be honest, and I love your answer as well, because the most important, everyone maybe have the same similar answer, but it's always in different way, in different understanding of the each person. So thank
Yeah,
you
I
for
never
that
really
answer.
thought about that perspective. I think that's a very interesting perspective, the one you just mentioned. Like I can see both. I think it's definitely again, we're all shaped by our individual experiences. So I could definitely see why, at 15 years in, you're a little bit more focused on the end goal.
Yeah, like done, like done.
Yeah, you're
I
like,
have
all right, fuck
kids who already grow up.
it.
Like my journey, like I really want to a bit enjoy
I've
my life.
experienced the journey. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Awesome, Jordan. Guys and girls, if you have anything to ask or you would like to have from Jordan consulting, or maybe trying to join his agency, and you have something organically selling on your end and you're looking for advertising traffic, which is I'm here as well. But seriously, today our guest is Jordan, and he knows what he's doing. I'm telling you that from my own as well. I know this person for already, like, we actually know each other for more than a year, and I'm really it's a pleasure for me. I feel enjoyable that, and so if you want to talk to him, we'll add it in his bio under this podcast, so you'll be able to reach out on social media or maybe going to his website. And definitely, like, he's good option to speak with in terms of business. And like, if you have any other questions which you would like us as agency owners to talk to, and we can record another podcast in the future as well, just tell us about that, so we're going to be prepared for next time. And we're going to be speaking as well in the next perspectives, like where you investing all your funds right now, what is happening. Like, there is a lot of subject to speak about when you're in such kind of journey like us. And Jordan, look how I am. Jordan, I really enjoyed this conversation with you, bro. And if you have anything to say to our audience, please feel free.
Well, Anatoly, man, thank you so much, bro. Again, like I said, it is crazy that we've been friends for over a year now. It just shows how fast time flies.
Time flying.
But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast, man. I hope you guys enjoyed and got a little bit of value out of this. And again, I think you guys know below where to find us at. And again, thank you so much for having me on, bro.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So with us was Jordan Bazouzi, and we are looking forward to hear your feedback. Take care, guys.